No one's ever accused me of not being able to project. So you just let me know if you need me to yes?
Yeah. A little bit.
Please. You can't hear me. You want me to use the mic? Is that better?
Yes. Yeah.
That's better? Okay.
Thank you.
So as I was saying, I grew up without any military connections at all. And you know the expression, I didn't know anything, but I also didn't know I didn't know anything. So I was a victim of lack of knowledge, let's say. And then I got an opportunity in about 2007 to work on base as a military family life consultant. You guys are a counselor. MFLEC. Have any of you ever heard of that program? All right, so you guys feel back there.
I know Jody very well.
You what?
Jody, Saladino.
Okay. And I'm going to talk to you because one of our board members is a Sergeant Major of the Wounded Warrior Battalion West at the Marine Corps. So we'll have to talk. So anyways, this program is to do anonymous confidential counseling. And I went on base. I set up to do this. It was short term. I was supposed to be there 6 weeks. Nobody ever came in. And for the first week, I'd say nobody ever came in. So I thought, well, how am I going to bring services to service members that are not voluntarily walking in to get help? And luckily, there was some great leadership. I was at MCRD, so boot camp, Marine Corps boot camp, right? So we got some great leadership, and the XO of one of the battalions said to me, well, I have an idea. What if we do some group therapy? We put all of the drill instructors together and put them in a group, and that would be a great way to expose them to counseling, right? So now you have to set the stage here. I have never worked with a service member before ever. Like, I had zero experience and I knew nothing. So I'm like, oh, how fun! A bunch of drill instructors in group therapy. This is going to be great. So they said, all right, so why don't you meet us back here at 1400 and the hats will be ready. And I hung up the phone. I'm like, 1400? The hats? Like, telling me about. So anyways, I quickly figured out that I needed to be there at 2, and the hats were drill instructors, and I walked in on time, but I was late. Because, in the military, when you're on time, you're late. So I walked into this room, and then they all stood up, and I'm like, what's going on here, right? And I automatically felt incredibly intimidated, as you could imagine, about 32 drill instructors in this room standing for me, and I'm late and the last one to join the room. And so I said, why don't we all just move our chairs into a big circle? And I'm thinking we're all going to go around the room and talk about our feelings, right? So I get everybody to move their chairs, and I sit down, and I'm actually moving from intimidated to panic, right? I'm like, what the am I gonna do? This was 2 hours ago that we even agreed to do this. So I thought I'd start with a little icebreaker. So I said, why don't we all go around the room and say what our names are and where we're from? Because that's a normal question that you would ask that you meet someone, hey, where are you from? I just started it out, where are you from? Kaylin says I'm from San Diego, and the woman back there says I'm from Sacramento. So first person says, my name is Sergeant so-and-so, and when you say where are you from, what do you mean? Which company I'm with, where this is they're, the billets on the drill instructor, so they're all, from other places, and they couldn't answer that question, where are you from? Really a pretty loaded question. And in that moment, in that very, very first moment, I realized how much I didn't know. And it didn't matter how much I knew about my civilian, but my American civilian life. I knew nothing about this military life. I stayed on base for a year, and I put 550 drill instructors through ongoing individual and group counseling. I saw them every 6 weeks, so I saw them in all the companies, in individual and in group. And at the end of the year, I wrote a book about what that experience was like and how I learned so much. If you can imagine, when you work at boot camp and you watch boys come in and step on the yellow footprints and leave as Marines, I learned a lot about military culture, and I fell in love. Literally, I drank the Kool-Aid, as the general used to say to me. Oh, Morrison, she's drinking our Kool-Aid. So I'm all in. I'm still all in. But then I got a really great opportunity about a year later to go to Camp Pendleton. And at Camp Pendleton, the 1st Marine Regiment said to me, all right, we want to do the same program that you did over there at NCRD, but we don't know if you can do it with infantry. I don't know if it would work the same as it worked with drill instructors. So the general said, we're going to do a little pilot, gave me the 1st Marine Division surgeon, who was a psychiatrist, and some of the psychologists to kind of build a grassroots effort here. And he gave me 1,600 Marines to just talk to, and from all different areas of the 1st Marine Division. So if you can imagine, as the civilian who knew nothing, I had this incredible opportunity that have been gifted to really learn a lot. Now, granted, it was Marine focused, and then again, it was males, because those were the 2 groups I spent a lot of time in. But I spent a lot of time talking to active duty service members. And my time at Camp Pendleton, I was watching Marines transition out. And seeing people who do these amazing jobs, are capable of so much, and I still have so much respect and admiration. And then watching that transition, seeing how difficult it is, and how civilian people like myself were not able and understanding on how to accept them and welcome them back. It really, it just pulled at me. And when we actually wrote this amazing program at Camp Pendleton, and at this part, I literally couldn't make any of this up, but the week that we were presenting it to headquarters Marine Corps was literally 5 days after sequestration. So if you remember that a few years ago, and so we had to kind of put a pause button on this till that stuff worked out, and on this program. And while I was kind of figuring out what to do, all these organizations kept asking me, especially in healthcare providers, can you help teach us about how to work with service members? Tell us what you've learned, So I'm like, okay, that I can do, because I know what you don't know, and I've learned, a decent amount. So I started out by volunteering and training healthcare providers, mental health care providers primarily, and then companies started reaching out. And mind you, I was not a nonprofit, I was not any business, I was just literally a person who felt an obligation to share what I learned. I always say I didn't choose this career chose me, really. It never could have been what I would have predicted. But big companies started calling me saying, hey, we have an employee with PTSD, can you help us, or this or that? So very shortly, it became very clear to me that while there's 40,000 nonprofits all focusing around helping the veterans, there was nobody helping, or like little bits and pieces, but nobody really helping civilians. The 90% of Americans, right? We have 1% serving and about 10% are connected. So the 90% of Americans like myself that really want to help, that want to do good, that want to be supportive, but yet don't know how. So I also thought to myself, I only know what I know, which is a small sliver. So there's got to be a way that I could learn from all these great organizations and people out there and the government, and take their content. It needed to be scalable. I knew this concept of doing live trainings, which I had been doing and going from base to base, which I was volunteering doing, to give you an example, the very first time I decided to do a training for healthcare providers was at Joint Base Lewis McChord, and I got a room that held 200 people. It was free. I did it for free. We filled up that room at 200 people within the first 2 days, and we had 320 on a waiting list. So I knew like the need to learn was there, but the ability to do it live was not. I was very fortunate. I went and opened up a nonprofit. Kind of went and, well, actually I back it up. I went to a donor, one person. I sat down. I said, this is what I want to do. I want to make a public library of the future. I want to, instead of people having to go to the library, I want to create an online library where instead of books, we have courses, online courses that are engaging. So you get people who don't have time to learn, don't want to learn, but might sit and watch an animated or something fun course that's taught by the nation's experts on these different topics. And it's free and it's public for anybody to come in and take. And I asked, and you guys are all in this nonprofit space, I asked for $500,000, which I was like sweating because I thought this is so crazy that I'm asking this one person for $500,000, and here I've never run an organization, I've only run a private practice. And she seemed very interested. But she kind of was like questioning me about my budget. She's like, "Are you sure you can get rent for that low?" And are you, you know, and I walked away and I thought, it's not gonna happen, because I just don't think that I got her to, I think she got it, but you know, have any of you ever gone out and asked for money before? Yeah. So it was my first, so it was a little scary. But so anyways, the next day, her assistant called me and said, you know, her name is Becky. She's really loves what you're doing, but she thinks you grossly underestimated how much it's going to cost. So she's going to double and give you $1 million. And with one caveat is that she doesn't want you to go fundraise. She wants you to just go out and prove your concept and build your mission and you know, go from there. So I was very fortunate to have that as a gift to get started. We now have over 120 free online courses, and we've been funded by multiple other major funders now to build, I believe we have 140 now in production. We have 40 employees. We have about over 20 full-time developers. We have we have a clinical team. We've got several PhDs and master's level clinicians. We run a civilian helpline. We partner very closely with the government. As our friend from the Army, I'm meeting with Undersecretary Patrick Murphy on Friday. We work very closely with the VA. We're one of the few organizations that has a national MOU with them. We get their content. They have super smart people there. It can be a little boring. So we get their content, we go to them, we say, okay, we need a course for sleep issues, for PTSD, whatever it is. We get their content, their audio, we send them headsets, and then we make them engaging in-house. And then we put them all out there for everyone to take for free. So that's the little backstory. I'll give you, I always go off my slides for, I'm like notorious for never paying attention. So to not talk to PowerPoint, as you could see that why there's a problem with 1%, I think I kind of went over that. You know, the reason why we exist is to help give the tools to civilians so that they can, you know, help assist. So we do these two things. We have our courses, and then we run our call center, which we say it's a call center. You can message, you can email, and you can call. And part of the reason we kind of take things a little differently at PsychArmor. Part of the reason why we do the call center is it's not, people don't call in all the time. I mean, calls that we receive, it's small numbers. But what we use the call center for is we call people. So we know that if you take a course, first of all, how many of you in here have ever taken a PsychArmor course? Okay, good. So maybe a little less than half. And so we know that if you can learn, and we can track knowledge learned, but we're not sure that knowledge changes behavior. So we use our support center to help change behavior. We then call and we reach out and we say, okay, now you've learned this, what do you need to do as a volunteer? What can we help you with, or what local referrals do you want in your community? So we do a lot of connecting people to their resources. But it is there. Our process of developing a course, people ask me this question all the time, is how do we actually decide, right? As you can imagine how many requests we get for course requests. I would say we get about 12 to 15 a day where people say, can you create a course for this, that? And so it actually has created a lot of, for us to have a whole bunch of, you know, process to how we do that. And so what we do is each one of our schools, so I don't know if you guys are familiar or not familiar, I don't know if the slide's coming. We have 6 different schools. Each one of our schools is sponsored. So we have our School for Caregivers and Families, which is sponsored by USAA. And we have a slew of courses in there, which I'm going to show you in a bit, all our courses. We have a School for Volunteers, which I think is probably going to be the best for all of you with those courses, and that's sponsored by the Bob Woodrow Foundation. We also have a School for Healthcare Providers, sponsored by TriWest, and Employers, which is Comcast, NBC Universal. Lots of courses there. and educators, where we're building courses for both K through 12 teachers working with military kids and colleges and universities. Each one of our schools has an advisory committee, and David is on our volunteer advisory committee, so it was nice to meet him live yesterday. Yeah, that was great, and the Woodrow Foundation brought him in. They helped pick out our committee members, which was really nice. So we start with what we say these national subject matter experts in the space, and so when someone comes to us, we'll put it out to our advisory committee, and we'll say, okay, what are your thoughts on a course on this, or and then they help us pick which courses that we're going to build that particular year or that time. We're 2 years old, by the way. It's not like we're pretty young. And then once we do it, then we start working with who's going to be the subject matter expert for that course. This is probably one of our biggest challenges is who's got the best content. It's never going to be perfect, and there may be more than one, but we're always looking at who has when the VA and the DoD are your partners and they review every single course before we make them live, we got to make sure that we got lots of cooks in the kitchen, let's say. So we make sure who has the best content. So we float that around, and then we start to look at the content. We have an education director, Dr. Rogers, that just came to us from the VA after 17 years of running education and dissemination. So we're so grateful to have stolen her. She's so good. So that's her job, is she vets all of this massive amounts of content. And then we come up with, okay, this is a good subject matter expert for a course that we have a need for, and then we get their content and we help them with it. We also send them a headset, we get their audio, and then we storyboard it in-house. And all of our courses are all very different. We launched 2 weeks ago at the Dole Foundation Caregiver event. Were any of you there? Yeah, you were there, yeah.
Right room.
So we launched our 14 courses with USAA. And we have about 10 more actually coming in the next few weeks, and those are all totally different. So if you want a little bit of a flavor, those are good ones, because depending on the developer, they have totally different feels. Some of them are animated, some of them are whiteboard, some of them are videos. The volunteer courses are a lot more video based. We're having a little bit more fun. We have hired some film developers that have graduated from film school, and we're kind of making we're putting humor in it, like what not to do, as a way to teach people what to do. So anyways, that's our, and then I think I covered all of that. We have an instructional design, we have a team, we do a lot of QA, we QA internally. So also to kind of give you some concept, we put a clinician with a developer so that we make sure all of the courses are using trauma-informed care, are clinically appropriate. We also always put a service member or a veteran, make sure that the uniforms are right, or that they're not wearing white t-shirts instead of green t-shirts, or all of these things, so that we're representing things in the right way. We have a really rigorous QA process. Then it goes to the advisory committees. It goes to our funders, our very close partners. Each one of them have their own committees, and then it also goes to the VA and the DoD. We have point people in the organization that will review courses. We get all the feedback, incorporate it all, send it out for one more review, and then we make it live. So that's how we do it, of course. I don't know why this is just kind of in here of some testimonials. Our number one course, I'm always going off the questions people ask me. The number one course that is our most popular course is 1515, which is actually a new version of it, was just released on Friday. It's 15 things. So what we did to back it up, because I think this one is one that if you ever have to take one, or you want to have your volunteers or somebody take one, this is the course to take, because this is our version of military culture, where we were asked, okay, let's do military culture in 45 minutes or an hour. We kept being asked. We didn't think we could do it, right? How do you teach something so complex in such a short period of time? So our clinical director, who is a combat clinical psychologist, was in the Navy and deployed as a psychologist. She came up with the idea of Dr. Kraft, Heidi Kraft, which is let's ask our audience, let's ask our customers, our service members, our Garden Reserve, our veterans, what's the one thing you would want a civilian to know about you? So we did this social media campaign. I don't know if any of you knew about it or heard of it. It was about last September that we did it. Am I running out of time? And okay, good, because I could just ramble. And we were hoping to get 10 things. We got 15. So out of it, we got these 15 themes. Close to 2,000 responses came in, and we categorized them in these 15 things, which is 15 things veterans want you to know. And then out of it are 5 questions that anybody could, if you knew these 15 things, so more than just saying thank you for your service, you could ask one of these 5 questions or all 5 of them and have a meaningful dialogue with a veteran by just having that little background and with our one mission of being military culturally aware. And I'm really excited to say that I found out last night when I got back to the room that there's a production company that pitched turning the 15 things into an hour program, and in the 2-minute 15, each 15 thing in a 2-minute segment, and the Schultz Family Foundation is funding this project of turning this course into a movie and these 2-minute videos that like anybody could watch on these 15 different things, and it's going to be in May. So we're going to do a big campaign, and we got Snapchat, Instagram as partners, so it'll be kind of a fun way to try to bridge the civilian military divide. But that's kind of our marquee course. This one I brought up is our first of the volunteer courses that have been launched, and this one is working with communication skills for veterans, and I think I have a really quick little demo. This is super fast. This is just like a little quick overview.
When an open-ended question comes up in conversation, this will appear, or perhaps a closed question.
What would you want them to know about you? We all have our own strengths and weaknesses, but I'm hoping by the end of this course, you will have learned some new tools to use when volunteering with veterans.
So that's just a little commercial, really 30-second thing on a new course that's in it's in QA, but it's almost done. There are, I think, 4 or 5 volunteer courses that are done on our end and are in the QA process, which is good news for all of you because that means that they're really close to being launched. They should be launched by in the next couple weeks. So this is some of the ones that are coming, supporting someone with invisible wounds. 15 things caregivers want you to know, and trauma-informed care when working with veterans. So those are some that are coming. I'm going to show you, I'm going to just pull up my computer here, which is always a little frightening. Hold on a second. I'm going to just kind of take you up. I don't know why I just did that. I'm going to open up the Wi-Fi, or the internet, and I'm doing my pictures. Can you see that? Let's see if I can make that bigger. I want to just kind of show you, I want to scroll through some of our courses. You know what? Well, okay, can you guys see that okay? I'm just going to scroll these, and then I'm going to have a little like booth later this afternoon. So, but I am not going to be here tomorrow, so we'll talk today too. But here's just an overview of all the military culture courses. So you can see those are just set up for anybody in any kind of military culture stuff. These are our healthcare provider courses. We have quite a few. We are training the CHOICE program. If you're familiar with the Vet CHOICE program, those providers have to go through or train those community providers in order to start seeing the veterans. We actually just did something really cool, which is over here. the cognitive processing therapy and prolonged exposure. This is kind of a big deal. We did, they're each 16 hours. We partnered with the DoD on it, the Center for Deployment Psychology, and we took their content and then the VA's PTSD consultation program, and we are training community providers for free, giving them free continuing education on how to do the most evidence-based treatments for PTSD. And we are doing a test pilot right now in El Paso, San Antonio, Phoenix, and San Diego. So we're collecting a lot of data on that and evaluating how effective that is, and then we'll roll it out, because so far it's going really well. We'll roll it out to the country. We also, what we did in our healthcare, we're going to do the same with volunteers and everywhere. It's like a bronze level, a gold level. So we're doing that with Choice program. If you've taken these courses, you can see military women issues. If you've taken these courses, you can see comorbid conditions. So we basically have the different tracks. These are our caregiver courses that we've just recently launched. There's a whole series on invisible wounds of war. As you can kind of see here, there's quite a few. We have respite, Montran. These ones are also done. These are done in QA. Stress first aid, we're the first one to bring stress first aid into online, so we're really excited. It is an 8-hour course, so it's quite a doozy, but that one is still in, we're back and forth with the actual Dr. Patricia Watson who wrote it. I don't know if you know stress first aid, the firefighters use it and the Marine Corps and the Navy use it as that combat operational stress. So the person who actually wrote it is our SME on it. You can see lots and lots of courses for employers. Verizon did a course for us, Hilton, Qualcomm, oh my gosh, we have NBC, we have lots and lots of courses. And then over here is volunteers. So this is kind of where I'm thinking that you guys fit most in. We have recreational opportunities with disabled veterans, supporting someone with suicidal thoughts, how to interact with service dogs, setting boundaries as a volunteer, volunteering with veterans with anger management issues, trauma-informed care. There's even more, supporting a grieving family member. So, and then we have, as you can see, a bunch of educator courses. So that's PsychArmor in a nutshell. Now I can tell you all of our courses are free. We also don't ever ask our learners for money. We don't ever come back to them and ask for donations. That's not our business model, and it hopefully will never be. So, and we also don't need people to come to, hold on one second, to come to our site to get the courses. We are more than happy to have our courses sit on anybody's website. On the back end, it comes to our LMS, but it avoids all the front end stuff. So, you know, what we want to do is, if you want us to track for you, which is how many of your volunteers or your users or whoever are taking, then you'll set up your own team within PsychArmor that we were kind of going back and forth on, and then in that team, we'd set you up. We can give you the images for whatever courses you want to offer, the instructor bios, all that, and then a link with your team's name on it, and then we can give you those feedback monthly of how many people have taken them and whatnot. And then the other option is that R4 has their own team, and then you can go through there, but it might be hard to kind of pull those metrics out. We have a partnership director, so his name is Walt. So my hope is that come see me at the booth, and if you want to set up your own team, we'll connect you. Again, there's no fees. It's free. So if you want to set up a team, give me your info. I'll have Walt reach out to you, and then we'll set you guys up and do that. Okay, I got the 5-minute warning. So any questions? I saw you have something. Yeah.
Yes, ma'am. Matthew from Think Incorporated. One of our working models is Warrior Up, Toughen Up. There's a lot of touchy-feely, sensitive yoga stuff that has been offered to me as a disabled vet, and it just is ineffective. I like to break stuff, like to burn stuff. That's therapy for me. I like to kill things. That's my therapy. I didn't see anything about PsychArmor dealing with that kind of mental strengthening?
That's a great question. So basically, like a course and this is the part that's always really confusing too, because we don't really build the courses for the veterans, and they're not really our audience, right? We're building it for people that support them. But I think to your point is, what do you do with somebody who is non-responsive to the approaches that you try, kind of a thing? And there's probably a name for that.
I guess where I was going with that was, in your experience in the past few years, whatever, however much, have you seen that to be
Yes.
kind of effective over the yoga kind of treatment?
You know what? It's such a great question, and I think that the answer is beautiful in the sense that everyone is different, and there is no silver bullet. There's no one size fits all, and I think that's why this whole veteran space is very complicated. Is that people are always looking for that silver bullet. You know, they're always looking for that. This is how we're doing this because it works, and it's like, you know, and success is like a little over half. That's what we measure success on. This is like an evidence-based program. It's working more than half the time. So I think absolutely, and that would be one I would say that we should suggest to Carrie, Dr. Rogers, our education director, is to, we do have it for healthcare providers, how to work with a resistant client, so or patient. So I think that you're right, as a volunteer, that's great. That's a really good one. And yes, I have heard that people respond differently, and some people love yoga, and some people love kayaking, and some people love peer programs. I mean, there's so much great stuff out there. The problem is not everybody fits with everything, and we need to help people learn that if that doesn't work, let them go and help them get to the next thing, because the last thing we want someone to do is reach out and get help, and that help doesn't resonate with them, and then they feel helpless. So, any other questions? Thank you.
So while Dallas is setting up, we'll have, I think some lunch is going to be coming through these doors in a little while. It might be a little bit of an interruption. I hope not too much of one. And then we'll probably realign the schedule just a little bit. We're running behind, so I think we might get to the last partner after lunch and then continue on with our day. And sit tight for 2 minutes.